Today we are going to be visiting the gorgeous Chateau de Chaumont in the Loire Valley, which is a great place to add if you're looking for one more stop to make in the Loire. Definitely add this to your list. We visited in April and we were so inspired by the gardens that you'll see here that we actually promised to recreate a similar spring border with the same colors. Let's dive into the long history of this gorgeous place. It's had many owners over the years. I found one of the most interesting owners being the last private owner. We'll get to her a little bit later. The chateau as it looks today was built at the turn of the 16th century, just in time for the Renaissance. But the original fortification on this spot was built around 1000 AD by an early Count of Blois as a border castle between Blois and Anjou. In 1054, the castle passed into the Amboise family for the next 500 years. Like, can you imagine having a house? This is why we love going to Europe, where it's like, this house has been in our family for 1100 years, and they're still there. In 1465, Louis XI had the castle destroyed and burned as a punishment to its owner for having been involved in a plot against the king, but he did return the lands back to their owner. And between 1468 and 1481, that owner, whose name was Pierre I, and his son Charles worked on reconstructing the chateau with its enormous towers, moats, and arrow slits that are still visible today. A later Charles d'Amboise continued the construction and added the symbolic interlaced C's, alternating with a flaming mound as sort of an emblem of the castle, which probably dates back to the flaming rubble that it might have been when they tore it down. He also added the coat of arms of the Amboise family, which is visible on the right tower of the gatehouse. The Amboise family became some of the main introducers of the Italian Renaissance style into France during this period, and Charles II d'Amboise was appointed governor of Lombardy and then admiral of France. And he was the first to take notice of none other than Leonardo da Vinci, who he commissioned to design a villa and to paint works for the King Louis XII. In 1507, Charles facilitated Leonardo's first trip to France, and the rest, as they say, is history. You can see more about Leonardo and his connections to the French royal family in our visit to the Amboise Chateau and Leonardo's actual final home at nearby Clos-Lucé. Some of my favorite women in French history have connections to Chaumont, including Louis XII's wife, Anne of Brittany. They visited in 1503, and their visit was commemorated by their sculpted arms of France being put above the drawbridge, flanked by the L and A for their name, along with Louis's emblem of the porcupine, which you can see in the courtyard. Skipping ahead to 1550, Catherine de' Medici, the Queen of Henri II of France, bought the chateau and probably used it as a hunting lodge and stopover between Amboise and Blois, the royal chateaus there. I mean, can you imagine this being your weekend cabin? I love that. After Henri II's tragic accidental death in a joust in 1559, Catherine forced his lifelong love and mistress, Diane de Poitiers, to swap her beloved Chenonceau, which Henry had gifted to Diane, and she swapped it for Chaumont. Diane did not make Chaumont her main residence and apparently only visited occasionally, but she did continue construction here until she died in 1566, and her construction resulted in the shape that we see today. She added her emblem, which is an entwined set of Ds, but the hidden emblem there is that there's an H and a D for Diane and Henri. This emblem was everywhere during their time together, and it was basically just a stamp and a code for their long-standing, lifelong relationship. Her other emblems came from her association with the hunting goddess Diana, including the hunting horn, bow, quiver, arrows, and moon symbols that you will see on a lot of the French royal chateaux of the time. After her and Catherine de' Medici's time here, Chaumont changed hands multiple times between the late 1500s and the 1800s, with various renovations, of course, being carried out along the way. In 1833, a Count of Aramon bought the estate and started creating the park around the chateau, and his widow continued the work after his death. It became a historical listed monument in 1840, but unfortunately their costly restoration program went unfinished, and it went up for sale again in 1872. The last and one of the most interesting private owners of the chateau was one Marie-Charlotte Constance Say, heiress to the great Say sugar refinery's fortune, one of the largest in France at the time. She is said to have seen it during a stroll along the Loire River and said, "I want that, I want that." She purchased the 1,025-hectare estate for just a little over 1.7 million francs at the age of 17 in 1875, and married Prince Henri Amédée de Broglie the same year. The princess was also whimsical enough to accept gifts of an elephant from India, which was transported by steamer from Bombay to Marseille and then by train on to Chaumont. The couple extensively renovated the chateau. Between 1875 and 1900, it is said that almost every stone of the chateau was removed one by one if it was damaged and replaced with a new one. They designed what was considered to be one of the most modern and luxurious stables in Europe at the time. They added large plots of extra land to the domain, and they also created a landscaped park with water tower, rustic bridge, and dog cemetery, plus a model farm with all of its associated outbuildings and housing. The pair also modernized the chateau quite a bit for their time. They installed running water and electricity and even underfloor heating. They furnished the historic apartments with antique furniture pieces and added heraldic stained glass to the grand staircase, as well as restoring the council room back to a reception room and added tiles from a Sicilian palace. They were famous in their time for hosting large parties, and it was common for up to 15 of their guests to stay for several weeks, and their guests would have included royalty, movie stars, and close friends like the Princess of Monaco. Sadly, the Say family fortunes did not hold after 1905, when the director of their large sugar business made reckless investments and expenditures and caused the family to lose a third of their large fortune. After the prince died, the princess also mismanaged what was left of her remaining fortune and then lost even more with the stock crash of 1929. In 1930, at the age of 73, she remarried another prince, Louis Ferdinand d'Orléans, who was 42 at the time, and they continued to have financial setbacks. The couple divided and sold much of the original 2,500 hectare estate down to just 21 hectares. In 1938, the French state took possession of the property along with a collection of tapestries and some of the furnishings. The princess spent her final days then dividing her time between the Georges V and Ritz Hotel, her husband's palace in Venice, and her Parisian apartment in Paris, where she died at 86 in 1943. The domain became a regional monument in 2007. If you're planning a visit, we found this, of all the chateaus we visited, this was one of the easier ones to get to, and it had easy parking that was easy to find, and it was just a short walk across the street basically from the chateau entrance. We visited here in the afternoon after having spent the first half of the day out at the royal city of Loche, and then it was an easy drive back to our B&B on the Loire River in Tours. I'll link the website for this domain in the description below, and you can get tickets and read about the history. I especially love this chateau because of its connections to some of my favorite women in history. The grounds are mostly flat and easy to walk. There are restrooms. I feel like there was a cafe, but it wasn't open or something when we were there, so might be somewhere to eat here, but you would have to check. And lots of the usual stairways and things inside the chateau, but the outside grounds are very easy to walk and definitely worth walking through, because there are a lot of hidden, interesting sculptural things and little kind of secret places throughout the grounds, and even look up in the trees. You will find some interesting things up in the actual trees, and lots of large actual sort of landscape pieces. So definitely worth a walk around the grounds. In fact, when you arrive, we actually walked through the whole grounds before going to the chateau. So we actually started up near the stables and then walked all of this and then kind of followed the signs to the chateau. But we found this to be just a really enjoyable afternoon to walk around. The chateau is lovely to see inside, and as you can see in some of this footage, it is furnished in a lot of the rooms, so it's really, really special to walk around and just kind of get a sense of it as sort of a home. It's very much of a homey chateau, so we really enjoyed it. I would definitely make a stop here because of its historical connections to French royalty and because of the interesting rooms that are all furnished and ready to go. I hope you are inspired to check this one out if you're in the Loire. It makes a great second stop if you're doing two castles in one day. It's about 20 minutes from Amboise, and I think it was about 45 minutes from where we were staying in Tours on this trip. Let us know in the comments if you visited Chaumont in the Loire. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.